6 months ago, Daniel's bank account was a battlefield, one overdraft after another, credit card minimums that never shrank. Every payday came like a gasp for air, only for him to drown again 2 weeks later. He didn't live lavishly, he didn't buy designer clothes or take crazy trips, he just couldn't seem to get ahead. Until one night, after a canceled date and a rejected payment, he sat in his car in the rain and whispered, "There's got to be a better way." What Daniel didn't know is that he was about to discover a simple system, one that would not only end the chaos but give him full control of his money and his life. Daniel was like a lot of people, smart, creative, hopeful, but financially, totally overwhelmed. He had 3 bank accounts, 2 credit cards, a mountain of student loans, and no idea where his money actually went. Every month, he made promises. This time I'll budget. This time I'll track my spending. But like New Year's resolutions, those plans vanished within days. His biggest fear wasn't being broke. It was never getting out of the cycle. Always surviving, never thriving. He had dreams, starting a side hustle, traveling with friends, helping his parents, but every time he opened his banking app, it felt like the door to that future slammed shut. One Friday evening, as Daniel scrolled through social media feeling broke and stuck, he saw something strange. An old college roommate, Malcolm, had posted a photo of a credit score, 807. Daniel's eyes widened. Malcolm? This was the same guy who once bought an electric scooter with student loan money. He hesitated, then typed, "Dude, how did you pull that off?" Malcolm replied instantly, "Let's catch up tomorrow. I'll show you something that changed everything." They met the next morning at their usual spot, a tiny cafe near campus. Malcolm looked different, confident, relaxed. He pulled out a worn moleskin notebook. No apps, no spreadsheets, just a list of steps. Simple, clear. "I used to be just like you," Malcolm said, "always stressed, always behind. Then I found a system, not a budget, a system." He explained how he stopped feeling guilty about spending money, how he automated everything, savings, bills, investments, how he built guilt-free spending into his routine. "It's not about cutting lattes," he said with a smirk. "It's about designing your rich life and then putting it on autopilot." Daniel was skeptical, but curious. No lectures, no shame, just calm clarity. It was the first time money didn't feel like a monster. It felt manageable. Daniel went home that night and opened every single account he had. He wrote everything down, checking $183.12. Credit card 1, $3,200. Credit card 2, $780. Student loans, $28,000. Savings, $42. It was terrifying. But then he followed Malcolm's first piece of advice. Start small, set up a system once, and let it run. So Daniel created a weekly calendar reminder called Money Sunday. Every Sunday he checked balances, looked at upcoming bills, and moved money into savings, even if it was just $10. He set up auto-pay for bills. He opened a high-yield savings account. He even renamed it Freedom Fund. Slowly, he began to feel less panic. Not because he had more money, but because he finally had a plan. With that notebook in hand and a new sense of possibility in his heart, Daniel went home and made a bold decision. He was going to stop surviving and start designing the life he actually wanted. Not the life he thought he should have. Not the one that looked good on paper or sounded impressive at dinner parties. The life that felt right for him. So he did something he had never done before. He sat down, grabbed a pen, and asked himself, "What does my rich life actually look like?" And the answers surprised him. It wasn't about yachts or Rolexes or quitting his job tomorrow. For Daniel, a rich life looked like never stressing about rent again. Being able to fly his mom out for the holidays without checking flight prices 5 times, eating out at his favorite Indian restaurant once a week, guilt-free, saying yes to weekend adventures with friends without worrying about his bank balance afterward, buying books anytime he wanted without debating if they were necessary. That was his rich life. Simple, personal, meaningful. So he started building toward it. First, he automated his savings, just like Malcolm told him. A small portion went into a high-yield savings account every month without him lifting a finger. It wasn't much at first, but over time, seeing that balance grow gave him confidence. For the first time, he wasn't just reacting to money, he was directing it. Then he canceled 2 subscriptions he hadn't used in months, not because he couldn't afford them, but because they weren't part of the life he was designing. He realized every dollar spent on something meaningless was a dollar not spent on something joyful. He even renamed his bank accounts. Instead of checking and savings, they became Freedom Fund, Dinner with Friends, and Future Daniel. And every time he transferred money, it wasn't a chore, it was a step closer to that rich life. He set up what Malcolm called a conscious spending plan where guilt had no place and joy was built in. 20% went towards savings. Fixed costs like rent and bills were covered. And best of all, he gave himself a monthly guilt-free spending budget. That small amount of money became sacred. A latte? No problem. A new pair of running shoes? Done. A last-minute ticket to a comedy show with friends? Absolutely. Because when you plan for joy, it's not a waste. It's living. And slowly, Daniel started to feel the difference, not in his net worth. That would come later, but in his sense of control, in his peace of mind, in his quiet confidence that, for once, he was moving forward. He wasn't trying to copy someone else's version of success. He was defining his own, and that was more empowering than any dollar amount could ever be. For Daniel, the real transformation didn't come from numbers on a spreadsheet. It came from something quieter, something internal, a mindset shift. Up until now, he had always viewed money as a problem to fix, a burden, a never-ending source of stress. But week after week, as he sat down for his money Sundays, something subtle started happening. The fear began to fade. He didn't dread looking at his accounts anymore, because now he understood where his money was going. He had a plan, but even more powerful than that, he stopped feeling guilty about spending. Before, every little expense triggered a wave of self-judgment. A dinner out meant he was irresponsible. A small purchase meant he was failing financially. But now, every dollar had a job. Some dollars were meant for saving, some for investing, some just for joy. And when he bought something he loved, like a good pair of shoes or a spontaneous coffee with an old friend, he felt free, not ashamed. He stopped asking himself, "Can I afford this?" and started asking, "Does this align with the life I'm building?" This shift changed everything. He realized wealth wasn't about depriving himself. It was about choice. Choosing what mattered, choosing what to eliminate, choosing what to prioritize. He stopped comparing himself to others. He stopped chasing the illusion of wealth on Instagram. He started focusing on what he actually wanted from life. That's when something amazing happened. He realized that for the first time in years, he didn't feel behind. He didn't feel broken. He felt in control. He wasn't waiting for a raise or a miracle or a viral moment to save him. He was building something, slowly, intentionally, a rich life on his own terms. And that was worth more than any short-term win. So, 6 months later, Daniel's Money Sunday looked completely different. He had $1,800 in his Freedom Fund. He was down to just one credit card. And wow, he had just booked his first real vacation, paid in full. And honestly, it all began with one book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. No fluff, no guilt, no penny pinching, just a clear, flexible, automated approach to building your version of a rich life. Ramit Sethi isn't your typical finance guy. He's not about cutting coupons or skipping coffee. He's about conscious spending, building a life you love without obsessing over every dime. He's been featured in the New York Times, NPR, and Netflix. But what makes Ramit different? He doesn't preach. He teaches with honesty, humor, and a dose of tough love. He wants you to live rich, not just someday, but now. These aren't just theories. They're tested systems that have helped millions. Daniel's story isn't rare. Millions of people are just one system away from peace, from freedom, from finally saying, I got this. This book didn't make Daniel rich overnight, but it gave him clarity. It gave him control. It helped him design a life he actually wants to live. So if you're tired of the chaos, maybe it's time to stop budgeting and start designing. If this story resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Every week, we dive into a new story inspired by a powerful book, helping you grow financially and personally one book at a time. So tell us below, what does your version of a rich life look like? And hey, if you want to read the book that started it all, we dropped the affiliate link to I Will Teach You to Be Rich in the description.